everybody. I'm home. We got home late last night. I'm going to try to film the story time for what happened at Rose City Comicon that people have been asking for. First, like we've done many conventions, people who follow us, you've seen, so we have enough experience, I feel like, to be able to kind of judge what this was compared to other conventions. Before I get into the disability portion, I just want to say that in general, I've never seen a convention that was so unconcerned with their vendors or their patrons even. When we went in to do our load-in, there was no climate control on. I don't know exactly how hot it was outside that day in Oregon, but it was very hot. And inside of just like a giant warehouse that we set up in, the convention center, but it's like a giant warehouse basically inside when you're there with nothing in it. And when we went to set up, we had soap smelting. That's how hot it was. Like, I felt sick. I almost went to the ER after that because I just felt so sick from the heat. We were pouring sweat. They would not turn on climate control because, according to the staff at the convention center, Rose City organizers had not paid for that. They only had the lights on at half staff, so everything was dim. Like, everything was a trip hazard. You couldn't see what your setup would look like in the real lighting. They didn't turn on lights or air conditioning until like a few minutes before the actual patrons were coming in the next day. So all of setup was done in half dark, sweating. We had soaps that melted that got damaged. We reported it. They said they'd come by and take an incident report. No one ever did. So we have actual product that was damaged by just the load-in process and them not having any climate control turned on for us. During the event itself, as far as the patrons, I noticed that they were sitting on the cement floor, lining the walls everywhere around because they had not been provided with any seating at all whatsoever. There was a couple of places that are part of the convention inside that sell food. And so people were buying, $10 hot dogs and $18 chicken nuggets, and they were sitting on a cement floor because there was, I think, 2 or 3 bar stools in the 2 different places that were vending food that were part of the convention itself, like the convention facility. So there was maybe a total of 6 seats for that. Other than that, any seating was for like demonstrations and things like that. So there was no seating in the vendor hall whatsoever. In fact, for vendors, when you buy your package, we paid $1,000 for our table. It was a small inline table that we paid for. I think it was a 10 by 10. So it was $1,000, came with the 1 table, 4 vendor badges, but only 2 chairs. We didn't even need our chairs because we brought our own chairs, but we were right near the vendor relations booth, so we got to hear a lot of conversations happening because it was right behind a curtain behind us. And I heard a vendor go up and tell them that one of their vendors was having trouble standing for the second and third days. Could they please just get 1 extra chair to use? And they were told no, they'd have to pay $100 to rent a chair for their vendor who was about to pass out from not being able to stand for the 3 days straight. Because again, 4 vendor badges, only 2 chairs. So they're basically requiring you to spend $100 each to rent a chair for those additional 2 vendors that you might have there. On top of the $1,000 table fee, there was also, I think it was $120 for us to get a parking pass, which ended up being something inflated as well because you could park there for $20 a day. So it was just a way to get vendors to buy a parking pass ahead of time so they would double their money on the vendors. There was, I think it was $140 to have electricity. The electrical tape was not taped down, so it was a trip hazard at the back of our booth for the entirety of the convention. There wasn't one single piece of tape to hold the cord to the ground, so we had to be very careful not to catch our feet on it and trip. I've never seen that before. And again, $140 just for electricity. So you can see the price starts adding up. We went cheap. We spent, I think, $374 for a hotel, which actually turned out to be great, for 4 nights that we'd be able to get up there the night before. So our break even was somewhere over upwards of $2,000. The event was stated to have 65,000 attendees every year at most of our, without going too far into our financials, but generally the conventions we go to, we end up on average earning about $1 per person. So if you had 65,000 people, we wouldn't have $65,000 worth of profit. But technically, that's what we'd be capable of in a setting like that with 65,000 people. If we go to a show with 3,000 people, we leave with $3,000 to $5,000 generally. That's kind of our rule of thumb. So we look into it before we book an event, look at table fees, everything else. So we went up there with maybe $20,000, $30,000 worth of product, and we left with about maybe $1,700 for the entirety of the 3-day weekend. That never happens. We never lose money. That's like less than a nickel per person. There were not 65,000 people there. I don't know how or why, but I would be highly suspicious. I can't confirm that they are somehow padding their numbers to get vendors. I also know from the staff there that Joe, the head of Left Field Entertainment, told them, don't worry about the vendors. I have wait lists of vendors. If the vendors are upset, it doesn't matter. I can replace them easily. Well, that's another lie, because we booked our, as you guys know who follow us, we booked our table there, I think 2 weeks before the event, maybe 3 weeks before the event. We had an acceptance within an hour of requesting a table spot there. There were plenty of other dice vendors there, so it's not because they were hard up for dice vendors. When we were there were open spots with no one there. So I feel like this is just a dying, the people aren't being treated well, the vendors or the patrons, and it is just dying a slow death up there anyways, on top of anything else that happened. But getting to the actual event. So myself, I have numerous disabilities. I have mental disabilities. I have borderline personality disorder, bipolar 2, anxiety, depression, agoraphobia, several things. I'm very prone to panic attacks. I have very reactive blood pressure, so when I have a panic attack, it becomes a physical emergency because my blood pressure becomes so elevated. In addition to that, 1.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. One incident, two tumors in one breast, one tumor in the other breast. I had a double mastectomy. I was very lucky. I did not require any chemotherapy or radiation. However, I do have to take hormone blockers for the next 10 years. So that put me into immediate menopause. They come with a lot of side effects. The primary one, there's a lot of primary ones, but the most pertinent one to this situation would be that it causes me to have severe joint pain. Even now, getting up out of bed, and this is after I'm warmed up for the morning. And I have additional because I'm still recovering from everything that happened there. But I have severe joint pain from the medications that I take that keep my cancer from coming back. So when we got there, we talked to the staff. After we were doing load-in, we talked to the staff, let them know what I had going on. Said that sometimes I get overwhelmed, I need to leave and just get outside. Could they please tell us where the nearest place would be that we'd be able to exit and re-enter? And they said, oh, absolutely, no problem. The convention staff were amazing of the convention facility. I cannot overstate that enough. They were awesome and tried to be helpful to the best of their abilities after the event occurred. So I had gone out where they told me I could go out and have re-entry. Right when the show opened at like 12:30 or something that first day, I went outside. I was getting overwhelmed with all the people coming in. Went outside. When I was ready to go back inside, there was no one there to let me in. So I waited a little bit. There was another vendor that apparently thought the same thing, had come out and couldn't get back in, or they were trying to go in, whatever reason. So they were unable to enter there, and they said, I think it's this way, and they took off. So I think, I tried to call Bob, because I don't actually work conventions. I go to conventions with Bob because he is my caretaker. If you think of him as like my emotional support animal, that's basically what he is. I could not be home alone for 2 or 3 days while he was gone. He does things like preparing my food, helps me bathe, helps me get around the house. I do have a mobility scooter. We didn't bring it because we didn't think we would need it, and we were already hauling so much stuff. And with the convention being so large, I was kind of afraid there'd be too many people and it'd be too bulky, etc. I didn't think I would need it, so I didn't take it. So anyways, I exited the building, got locked out there. I tried to call Bob, but of course he's vending. It's the opening of the show. I think his phone was running to live as well, so he didn't hear it. So I'm like, okay, I could either just stand here, or I could try to start getting around the building as best I can. So I start off slow, just trying to go around the building, and this building's enormous, like, I'd have to look it up, but maybe like a football field. Like, this is blocks worth of convention center, and I'm at the bottom slope of it, and everything else is up from where I am. So I start walking as slowly as I can, but as I'm going around, I'm noticing there's no one, there's no staff, there's no signs pointing me in any direction, just doors saying that they're closed. So I start panicking. I'm in Portland by myself, locked out of where my comfort is. He's locked inside. I don't know if I can get to him. I don't know my way around. I'm in a state I've never really been in before, in a city I've never been in before. So I start panicking. My blood pressure starts going up. I'm trudging up this hill, just thinking I need to get to help before I pass out. Terrified that I'm going to pass out on the sidewalk in a foreign place where, and my husband wouldn't even know where to come and look for me because he would think I'm where they told me to be. So I keep walking. Eventually I get about halfway around the building. I encounter my first security guard. I told him, I need a wheelchair and a medic. Can you contact the people inside? And he said, my walkie-talkie doesn't have communication with the people inside. You'll have to continue on to one of the doors and see if they can help you. So I keep going. I see the queue line for people to come into the convention. Obviously, there's no way I'm going to be able to bolt through that, and it's a very steep, long way to get down to where the people were anyway. So I went around to where I knew the VIP entrance was, and there were staff there, and I said, I need a wheelchair, and I need the med tent. Where's the med tent? I need a wheelchair so I can get there, please. And they said, oh, you're a vendor. You need to go to the vendor entrance. So they sent me, it wasn't terribly far, but they sent me a little further down to the vendor entrance. I went there. That's where they have the full security with the wands and all that. Like there was 5 or 6 security guards, maybe a drug sniffing dog, all that stuff. A rug sniffing dog. But so I went in there, told them I need a wheelchair. I need the med tent. I'm having a medical emergency. And they said, oh, you need to go talk to ADA. And they wanded me and all that, and then sent me over to the ADA booth, which was like across that open area. And there's the ADA booth and vendor services or something like that right there, like 2 different. And I went right into the middle of them. I said, I need a wheelchair. I need a med tent. I'm having a medical emergency. I need help. And they said, oh, do we have a med tent? Do you know where the med tent is? Where's the med tent, guys? If we have one, it's probably downstairs. You could talk to security to help you. And they sent me back to security. So I went back to security again. At this time, I'm panicking. I said, I need help. I need a wheelchair. I need a medic. I need medical attention. They tried to send me to ADA again. That's when I had started my video camera recording, because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm scared. I want this recorded so that people know what's happening in case I pass out. So they'll know what I'm going through. So I started recording and I said, I'm here. I've asked 8 people for help. I don't know what to do next. And the security guard behind me started saying, well, you never said medical emergency. You didn't say those words. And I said something like, well, this guy's arguing semantics. I need help. He held up his hand. I felt like he was going to grab my phone. And then I saw him start to go around the table to come out from behind the table I didn't know what he's going to do. Grab my phone. I didn't know. Luckily, at that point, there was another person who was working there because there were several security guards. One of the other security guards asked someone else, like, hey, do you know where the med tent is? She needs help. And she turned to me and said, like, oh, do you need help? Like, oh, I don't know where it is, but you need help? And I said, yes, I need help. And so she said, okay, I'll go find out for you. I still wasn't directed anywhere, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. So I told her, I'm going to go sit right there on the cement. There was no chairs. So I said, I'm going to go sit right there. So when you find them or know where to send me, please, like, that's where I'm going to be. So I went and I sat there. From that point, it took about 20 minutes from my timestamps on my video for them to locate a medic and have them come and check me. Turns out the med tent was literally right down the escalator that was right there beside us. So if I would have even yelled medic, they would have heard me and been able to come and help me. But none of the staff at the EDA counter, the security, anywhere else up there knew where to send me, knew where the med tent was. They just shuffled me along to the next person, not addressing the medical emergency I was having. So the medic checked me. My blood pressure was like 180 over something, high, but not high enough to send me to the ER. I was never offered to get transported to a hospital to get checked out or anything. The medic was very kind. They were very nice. They stayed, and I said, could you please, at least before you leave, show me where the med tent is so that if this happens again, I know where I can go. And he said he would, but I think he got called away. So then the person from the ADA booth came over and said, well, we can get you a motorized scooter for the rest of the weekend. I said, perfect. That'd be amazing. Like, I know stuff happens, mistakes happen. It's fine. I just need to be able to get through the rest of the weekend. I know I'm going to be hurting. I'm going to have to take extra pain meds. My joints are hurting. I don't even know if I'll be able to come back tomorrow, but if I have at least a motorized scooter, maybe I can, do that, because I also can't stay at the hotel by myself for an entire day, because I'd have panic attacks the whole time, and I can't, make food and do the things I would need to do without my helper. So anyways, she said, I'm going to go get that, and she took off. So I'm sitting there for another, I don't know how long. I'd have to check timestamps, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. She came back and she said, oh, we can't do it. It's a third-party vendor, but here's her card. You can call her at $60. So I said, well, is there anyone else I can talk to? Like, I didn't bring an extra $60 for this. We just opened our booth. Is there anybody I could talk to? Like, I feel like after all this happened and all the, times you had to help me and I didn't get help, like, this should never have happened. I would like you to take responsibility by just providing me a way that I can continue on to be here during the convention, because I can't be back at the hotel room by myself either. I have to be here and I'm going to be hurting and I'm going to panic if I know I can't get out at all. And I'm there full crying, everything. Like, I have videos between each one of the times I talk to people that eventually I'll edit them together so that it's easier and post them, or just post all of them together, whichever. But so eventually she went and got Joe. And I talked to Joe. I don't remember if it was him or the ADA person. Somebody said they had talked to the person with the scooters. They might be able to work something out for me, whatever, that I could call them. But then Joe came and he said, why didn't you look at your vendor map better? Have you done a big convention before? Like Emerald City? Or he starts listing off big conventions to see, you know, if I've done these before, if this is just my lack of knowledge or ability or whatever. He was extremely condescending. Not once did he say he was sorry this happened. Not once did he show concern for, like, well, how did this happen? What did the staff say? What can I fix? None of that. It was, why didn't you study your map better? Why didn't, and I did look at the map. But again, when the staff gives you an accommodation, it tells you, yes, you can use the store. It's not a problem. When you have a specialized situation, that's not going to be on a map for me to look at. And then he just blamed, like, oh, well, that's convention staff. That's not our staff. Oh, were they in a red shirt, blue shirt, green shirt? You should know the shirts. You should know which shirts are third-party vendors. You should know which shirts are our people and everything else. Like, they wouldn't even pay the $60. And then he tried to say it was because for insurance reasons they couldn't pay for it. And I said, well, if I pay for it, can you reimburse me? Like, I'll sign all the paperwork and everything with them, so there's no liability. I just need the scooter so I can exist for the next 2 days. And, you know, I have a $1,000 table, and I've already, at that point, like, all told, before I got back to my booth, I believe it was 2 or 3 hours this happened, where I wasn't there to, and where Bob was worried about me. So he wasn't so worried about selling. He was worried about me, but he had to stay there to guard our stuff. So we lost out 2 or 3 hours of sales then. So long story short, Joe showed absolutely no concern. He wanted to blame me. He wanted to blame other staff. He wanted to blame, you know, all he was interested in finding out was making sure that it wasn't their staff. Their staff didn't do it. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. It was somebody else. And then he was like, what do you want from us? And I was like, well, I'd really like what you said you would do. I would just, all I want is a motorized scooter for the next 2 days so I can be here, you know? And he basically said no. He said, we can either escort you back to your booth, or you're welcome to sit here on the ground for as long as you want until you get better. I said, well, I don't just get better. Like, this has damaged my joints. I'm going to be hurting for days, like probably days after we get home, which I am. I was worried about how much pain I was going to be in for the drive home from Oregon to California, let alone, like, just recovery. So anyway, long story short about that, he literally just left me sitting there on the cement by myself to fend for myself. I had a card for the lady if I wanted to try to rent a scooter. I videotaped me hobbling back the entire length of the convention center to find my booth, crying, feeling like a horrible partner, feeling disabled. And that's something I struggle with because besides a mastectomy, I don't look the most disabled. And I like to try to act like I'm not disabled. I like to try to do as much as I can and feel as normal as I can. But when something like that happens, it throws you right back into the I'm not normal, and I'm not going to be normal for a long time, if ever, because I don't know if the joint pain and things are reversible in the 10 years when I can quit taking the hormone-blocking medications, or if that's just a permanent thing that I'll live with forever. So it was like a reminder that I'm not whole and I'm not okay, and my battle with cancer is not over. Like, I don't have cancer right now, but the battle continues. So it's just a reminder of things that I didn't want to be reminded of right then. And I'd had a full-blown panic attack, streaming tears, everything, and I was just left to sit on the cement by myself and get back to my booth where they could walk with me. So eventually I make it back to my booth. I'm basically in there just broken down, crying the rest of the day. And they never take an incident report of it whatsoever. So eventually I went, the vendor counter, like I said, was right by where we were. So I said, you know, this happened, and I didn't even get like an incident report or anything. I'd really like an incident report to document what happened because I didn't think it was acceptable. They said, oh, we'll send Joe over. I said, well, it's kind of about Joe. And they said, well, Joe's the top guy, whatever. So I happened to be in the restroom, I think, when they sent Joe and JP, who they called their head of security, but he seemed more like the head of their legal department, over to talk. They talked to my husband, did the same kind of condescending things, like, well, she should have talked to someone in a red shirt or a blue shirt or a black shirt. What words did she say? Did she say medical emergency, or did she just say I need a medic? All they were concerned with was what their liability was going to be in the situation. They didn't even offer us an extra chair. They didn't offer us to talk to the building and see if there was accommodations where I could enter and exit closer. Like none of the things that they could have done literally for free. And we'll get to that too because they were all available. But anyway, they talked to my husband for a while, very condescending with him as well, blamed everything on us, the outside vendors, this, that, the other. And then I didn't hear anything else from them, but the convention staff themselves came up at that point because they had heard about it, whatever, and they were extremely apologetic that it had happened. They wanted to do everything they could to make my experience better. They provided me with a free wheelchair, which apparently is there. I didn't see anything about it in any emails, that I could have even reserved a motorized scooter for free. I don't remember seeing that in any of the emails I got from Rose City as a vendor. They were unfortunately all booked, so I ended up that day with a wheelchair, which was amazing. I was so grateful for that. They did give me special access to that same door that I had gone out, but they let me know how I could get back in from that location, so that was amazing. They were wonderful to me the whole rest of the time. They checked in on me the next day to make sure I was okay, if there was anything else they could do. The next day I was on a wait list for a wheelchair. They ended up having a wheelchair, so that was awesome. But the next morning, JP came back to, there's no other way to classify it, but interrogate me. Our live was running, so if you happen to be on our live, you saw it. I don't know if you could hear it very well, but he was in our booth for probably like an hour interrogating me, and there was no, how could we fix this and make this better? What else could we do? Nothing, no apologies, no anything. It was literally still just, what color shirt was that person wearing? Were they with us or someone else? They were with someone else. Okay, that's not, we can't do anything about that. Did you say I'm having a medical emergency, or did you just say I need a medic? Because if you just need a medic, they might just think you need a Band-Aid. I was like, well, even if they thought I just needed a Band-Aid, they should still know where the medic tent is to direct me there. Like that's not excusable. You know, what if I had a heart attack? It took them 20 minutes to find the med tent, which was, you know, I could have yelled and gotten a medic. Like it was literally, if you were an ambulatory person, a 1 minute, if that, not even that, maybe a 20-second walk down the stairs or the escalator to the med tent. I was like, that just isn't acceptable. And it's not acceptable to then blame the disabled person who you've damaged and say it's their fault. They should have studied maps better, but the map wouldn't have helped me. It didn't say where I would have special ADA access. I talk to the staff when I get there to work out the best situation I can. You know, and I can understand that could have happened. You know, mistakes happen, whatever. Like, I wouldn't have done anything about it. I wouldn't even have said a negative word about the convention if they had just provided me with, you know, the $60 scooter. But that's the other thing. When I got back to my tent, because I did need the scooter, I called, even though I didn't have the money, crying tears, calling this stranger, basically begging for help. And I said, I'm sure you know about my situation because they talked to you. Like they said they were going to go talk to you and see what they could do. She said, no, I haven't heard anything about it. So the half an hour I sat on the cement while they were supposedly talking to her, trying to get me a motorized scooter. I don't know what they were doing, finding her card for me, but they didn't talk to her. There was no attempt even made to talk to her and see if anything could be worked out to get me a scooter. So I'm getting emotional. I was very emotional like through the whole weekend of it, and I'm trying to move past it. But I was scared to go back the second day. Like, I didn't want to go back. It was so uncomfortable because I didn't know if they were going to come and harass me. I didn't know what accommodations there were going to be for me to be able to get in and out. I didn't know because I was on the wait list for the wheelchair if I was going to have that, and I couldn't walk. Like, it hurt. My knees hurt, my hips hurt, my shoulders hurt, my, foot bones hurt. So I was trying to hobble around the best I can, but even where we were, like the bathrooms, we were like equidistant from like two faraway bathrooms. So it was like a really long trek to just get to a restroom, which none of them ever had toilet paper, by the way. But again, like it just was a lack of concern for the customers, the people who actually pay money to come to the convention. It was a lack of respect. Like, I'm not a litigious person. I'm not an angry person. Like, I would have understood, if there was some miscommunications or if I should have read a map better or whatever. But it's like the situation being what it is and me not being able to get help from 8 different people I asked for help isn't acceptable. And even for that alone, I would have expected, we're so sorry this happened. We're going to see what we could do to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. What do you think we could have done to do better? Like, we're going to make sure we train people better. Anything. There was literally none of that. It was just, oh, it wasn't us. It wasn't us. It was them. It was them. It was them. And that seems to me to be what Joe does. Like, he puts together, these conventions, and then he just hires third parties for everything. That way he can step back and just like wipe his hands of it, and it's someone else's problem. He's never liable. They don't do anything. All they do is collect all the money from it. And again, like I said, he told people, like, don't worry about if the vendors are upset because we have wait lists of vendors, which isn't true. There's no way there were 65,000 people at that convention. If they were, they weren't ever in the vendor hall, because it did not seem any busier to me than other conventions we do that have, like, 6,000 people, 10,000 people. It didn't seem like there was more people than RageCon, and RageCon was not 65,000 people. And when I talked to the staff who were doing the ticket taking, they kind of confirmed that. And I don't want to call them out and call out numbers, but it was at least 40% less than what they had claimed that their regular attendance was in tickets that they knew of from whatever their behind the scenes stuff was. So again, I don't know how much of all of this is fact. Like, some of it is stuff that, in conversing with people, I discovered or whatever. I'm worried they're going to sue me for slander or libel, so I want to make sure everything that I say is 100% as accurate as I can be and as true to my experience as possible. But for me to have to walk the entirety of the outside as a handicapped person who'd asked for access, accommodation, and been supposedly provided accommodation, to then hurt myself in full panic, high blood pressure, ruined my weekend, ruined hours and hours of sales ability. Because I don't usually really sell, but I'm there, like, if he needs to go to the bathroom to make sure nobody steals our stuff. More importantly, I'm there because he is my safe space. And honestly, conventions are my safe space. If you ever were to see me at Walmart, I don't really talk to people. I stick right next to his side, usually holding hands or his arms around me. We stop regularly. He holds me to make sure I'm okay. Sometimes we exit so I could be okay, and he'll come in and finish, or I'll be able to go in and finish with him. But conventions have always been a safe space. It's the most kind, welcoming, beautiful people there. And I don't feel scared there the way I feel scared everywhere else. I don't have usually the anxiety I have that I have everywhere else. So for that to be kind of ruined for me for right now, and I won't let it ruin it for forever. I know it was one isolated place, but that's what my head goes to, is that my safe space was taken. I was embarrassed walking back to my booth crying. I was embarrassed sitting in my booth crying. I was just embarrassed, and I was shocked. I think I was in shock the first night, really, because I never expected to have an experience like that. I can't imagine anyone leaving someone in medical crisis sitting on a cement ground, like, not even offering them a chair, not offering, to try to find them a wheelchair. There were wheelchairs there, and their staff didn't know about it. They could have gotten me a wheelchair right then and there, from just not too far, well, kind of far away, because that's the other problem. The ADA access door, to get to where the wheelchairs are, if you go in the ADA access door, you have to go down one escalator and up another escalator, or vice versa, all the way to the other corner and around a corner, whatever, of the convention center. Or you have to go down an elevator through, like, some kind of maze that there are people in the elevator trying to find that were lost when I was being brought back in my wheelchair when I went to pick it up one day. That's how I know. It's not findable. It's not accessible. You can't get from the ADA entrance easily to where the wheelchairs and things are available. So it's just incredibly poor planning. People that are not trained for an emergency. If someone would have gotten hurt, and 10 staff and the security guards don't know where, if you even have met a booth, let alone where it is or how to get people help, and you have people there literally in the entryway, bawling, having a full panic attack, sitting, hurting, sitting on a cement floor for an hour, 2 hours, however long I was sitting there, and then your resolution is just to be like, well, just sit here till you feel better. I don't feel better still. My joints still hurt more. I'm taking extra medication. Damaging my liver, whatever, to try to be more comfortable. But so today I'm here in my bed, and that's probably where I'm going to be all day today. I'm just trying to relax and recover and recuperate, but it's even more so like because I know eventually my joints will calm down. But it's more the mental. It's really more the mental, and having my safe space taken and feeling uncared about, like I was a subclass citizen. Like I was just a problem, and that all they were worried about was the liability, and just being like, oh, you can't sue us, it's fine, leave her here on the ground, she could do whatever, you're free to sit on our ground, I guess. And that just lack of care just extended to everything. Like, there were so many things there that I found unsafe, and unacceptable as a disabled person, even just like, and I don't know what the laws are. I'm sure they're in compliance with the laws, but where we were, it was so far to get to the restrooms. And I don't usually use a manual wheelchair. I usually have my power chair. So I don't have all the calluses and whatever. I have, I could even still see it here somewhat, but like my arms were rubbed raw by the wheelchair, by the armrest while I'm trying to wheel. My arms hurt, my shoulders hurt now from wheeling. I have surgery on my hand coming up in like a week or whatever because I have this big ganglion cyst and I have trigger finger where my thumb won't move past that and everything. So trying to use the wheelchair even was like really painful. But just watching the people who paid all that money for their tickets to be eating their $18 chicken nuggets sitting on the floor. And I think that's the other reason my sales were low. I talked to all the other vendors. Well, not all. I talked to very many other vendors, maybe 20 or 30. Everyone were having similar experiences where they, at the end of the day, there's only one I know out of maybe 20 who hit their break even, and they barely hit their break even by the end of the last day. So all the other vendors I talked to, at least 15, 20 vendors lost money going to the convention. So for us, beyond my being damaged and emotionally damaged and whatever, we had the loss in the soaps that got melted that they still haven't contacted us in any way about. Oh, they also refused to take a actual incident report of the incident that happened. They said, oh, just tell us about it. We'll write it up. But they didn't provide me any incident report. They aren't putting it on a form. It's not on paper anywhere. They said I couldn't get a paper incident report. I tried. But yeah, and we were out at least $300 on the cost of the trip. Not to mention that means everything that he sold there that day we gave away for free. We didn't earn any profit, so anything we had in that in terms of, you know, his hard work, his, you know, the resin he used to make the dice, the resin he used to print things, whatever, that was all, everything that day, everything for those 3 days was just given away for free, plus we lost $300 on attending the event. And that was a very common experience for the vendors because it's just not a well-run event, and you won't have customers that are coming by and wanting to talk to you and buy your product if they're hurting, if they're hot because they didn't turn, the AC was on the second day, but everyone was, the only people that made money at that event were the people selling fans because everyone had a fan and they were fanning themselves as they were walking around because it was so hot and so stuffy. And from everything I heard from the convention staff, again, this is from the staff, so I don't know it as a fact. It's just what I was told was that Joe doesn't want to pay for it. Joe won't pay for chairs. Joe won't pay for the lights to be on for you guys to load in. Joe won't pay for the air conditioner to be running any more than it's running. So all the people who were attending there were uncomfortable and hurting. They were, like I said, $18 chicken nuggets eating on a cement floor, a dirty cement floor. It just shows a complete lack of care for the people who you collect your money from. I mean, we were vendor space 2,231, so they have over 2,000 vendors at $1,000 and up. Ours was the cheapest table. And plus, you know, obviously all the badge sales and everything for people coming in. And it shows an absolute lack of care, concern, or consideration. And when I posted my video, it got so much attention because so many people comment on it that they had similar ADA-related issues, similar disregard for themselves or safety while they were at the event. So it's not a singular experience that I had, unfortunately. And that's why I feel the need to look into getting a lawyer to make sure that Left Field Entertainment doesn't continue putting on shows where people with disabilities are disregarded or hurt. Like, I'm physically hurt. I'm emotionally hurt, but I'm physically hurt as well. And it could have been way worse. Like, you know, if that was somebody who had epilepsy and had a, you know, seizure or something, they wouldn't have gotten them any help. Like, no one offered to call an ambulance. Nobody offered to anything. I self-directed to sit on the floor and wait for them to try to find me a medic, because at least that way I was finally in the middle of a bunch of people and I knew somebody would notice if I passed out. That's not how anyone should have to feel. It was a very unsafe experience for me, physically and emotionally, and financially. I mean, it's his business. He lost all that money, and I feel guilty because I feel like part of it was because of me and my disabilities, and that he had to take care of me. So that's where we're at. That's the story time. Like I said, I have videos of me, like, between every single interaction I had. I was videoing myself to record what was happening. I have the video of the security guard who tried to take my phone and everything else. So I'll probably eventually either edit them down so they're more watchable and post them, or just post them all in their entirety for people to, you know, who want to spend the time and see. But anyways, thank you for listening. That is what happened, and we'll see where it goes from here. But here's to onward and upward. I really wanted to record this today, even though I really didn't want to, because I know that you guys want to know. I know that you guys deserve to know. I want people to know what happened so they can decide whether that's a kind of company they want to support with their hard-earned money. There's so many conventions out there that are inclusive and loving and love their vendors and love their patrons and have such a great spirit. And this was really like a nightmare experience, and it's the first negative experience we've really had at a convention, so I wanted to make sure you guys knew what had happened so you could make, you know, good choices for yourself with whatever lines up with your morals and beliefs and whatever, before you book a table with a left field management company, etc. So thanks for listening. I just wanted to get this over with too so I could kind of move on from it. I'll be in contact with my lawyer and see where we go from there. But outside of that, we're not going to keep posting about it here. If you have questions, you can message me. That's not a problem, or ask questions down below. But beyond that, we're going to try to kind of put this behind us, mostly for my mental health. Because we like to stay positive on here. We have a lot of fun, usually when we go to conventions, and he usually makes a lot of money having a lot of fun. And you guys get great ice, so it works out good for all of us. So we'll just nix this one off of our list and onward and upward. I think our next stop is Gamer Festival in San Luis Obispo, so I really hope we see a bunch of you there. We've done many Gamer Festivals before. They are amazing. They are so accessible, so concerned. The guy who runs it he's just awesome. So I don't anticipate any problems there whatsoever. If I did have problems, he would immediately address them. So I'm looking forward to a much better show and a much happier me at the end of that one. Thanks, guys.